Welcome to the Florandorder Time Chat. Today I'm joined by the wonderful Dr. Haley Quinn, a proud autistic woman with ADHD, anti-burnout business coach, speaker, trainer, author, and former clinical psychologist. Haley is the founder and director of Welcome to Self, a company that helps business owners transform their relationships with themselves and their work so they can succeed without compromising their well-being. We're going to chat today about the power of slowing down to get more done, how compassion changes the game in business and life, and what it really looks like to work differently in a way that's more human, more sustainable, and far less exhausting. So welcome, Haley.
Hi, thanks so much for having me on.
I'm so excited for this conversation, and I'd love to start by asking, what does slowing down to get more done mean to you personally?
Well, I think we can think if we go slower that we're not going to get anything done. But in my experience, the slower we go, the calmer our nervous system and the more intentional we are, we do actually tend to be more productive. So it sounds weird to go slower when you've got a lot to get done, but actually I find that's the best way to do it.
Yes. And how do you go about that every day? How do you plan your day? How does it show up?
Well, for me, and this has been something that I've kind of developed over time as I've got to know myself better and how I like to work, and I've changed things up. I used to start much earlier in the morning, and for me, I start later in the day. Now I know that I have a certain level of privilege that allows me to do that. I'm no longer parenting, actively parenting, so I don't have to be getting up and kind of getting kids ready for school or anything like that. But I start my morning a lot slower, and I spend time connecting with myself and sort of checking in with where I'm at on that day, how I'm feeling, and what I need to resource myself to do the things that I need to do in the day. And then I've also got to a place where I used to book in lots of appointments. When I was working as a clinical psychologist, I would see a lot of clients. And over time, I realized that, putting breaks in between clients was really important. And then actually reducing the number of people I was seeing in a day. So now, whilst I don't see clinical clients anymore, I do see coaching clients. And I have other appointments and things that I have to get done. So I make sure that I'm not doing too many of those in any one day. And I also make sure that I have breaks in between everything that I'm doing so that I can kind of put away whatever it is I was just working on, check in with myself if there's anything I need, making sure that I'm staying hydrated and eating, things like that, and then being able to refocus onto whatever it is I'm doing next. So it's just little things through the day for me, really. The main one, I guess, is coming back to myself and checking in with myself of how am I feeling? Is there anything I need? What do I need for a particular task? But what do I also need for myself and my own well-being?
Yeah. And was there a particular turning point that made this really come home for you, that you needed to do it that way?
Yeah, absolutely. About 10 years ago now, I'd finished my psychology training. I was a single mum whilst I was doing that. And I did my bachelor and went on to do a PhD. And at times during that, I was also working anything up to 3 jobs as well to sort of have enough to, live life and do the things we needed and wanted to do. And I thought I was taking really good care of myself. And in many ways I was, but we're not robots, right? So I was doing too much. And ultimately, once I was working as a psychologist, over time, things just started to deteriorate for me and my health took a turn. And I ended up in a really significant burnout. And I had to walk away from, I worked in a group practice. We all worked for ourselves, but within a group practice. I had some really great clients, I had some really wonderful colleagues, and I had to make a really difficult decision to leave there and start something up for myself that was a lot smaller. And that had an impact on me financially. It had an impact on my health. It had an impact on how I felt about myself, like all of the things. And I kind of rebuilt a home-based business where I was seeing a small number of clients. And at the time, I didn't know if I was going to be able to continue being a psychologist. Thankfully, I was able to. And part of that was really designing my business in a way that worked for me. Ultimately, I'm no longer a psychologist, but that's not through a forced choice. That was a decision I made last year as my business has changed and evolved, and I'm focusing in another direction. But the way I was able to rebuild a successful business was by really tuning into who I am, what I need, and how I was going to best take care of myself, and then making sure that I did those things.
And the the office that you were at previously with the group, that was generally 9 to 5, or was it? Did you have any?
Yeah, so I was pretty much doing a 9 to 5 there, and working. I don't think I worked more than, I think initially actually in my career as a psychologist, I did do 5 days a week. I soon realized that wasn't ideal, and I moved to 4 days and then 3 days. And I reduced from sort of 7 clients a day to 6 clients a day to 5 clients a day. I kept doing all these little tweaks to try and make things better. But ultimately, I'd got to a point where I was already in burnout. And unfortunately, once you are in burnout, the little tweaks don't really do the job anymore. You've got to really take some more radical action. And this is why I'm so passionate about burnout prevention, because if we can do these things prior to burnout, then we can make little tweaks that will make a difference. It's almost like if we think about a fire, if it's something's just smoldering, you can get a cup of water, right, and chuck it on and it's going to put it out. But if the fire takes hold, a cup of water is not going to do anything.
Yeah, so analogy.
Yeah, so for me, it really is preventing it before it sets in, because the impact is huge, and I don't want that for people. It's something that, you know, I look back on, and I think this can happen. You know, we can have growth through these experiences, and we can look back and see the gifts in them. And I learned a lot. I learned a lot about myself. I learned a lot about business, and it's kind of changed how I work, but also the work I do with other people. And I love the work I'm doing, but I don't want anyone else to experience what I experienced.
Yes. And I see that, like, even myself, becoming a small business owner, realizing, oh, I could do time differently to 9 to 5. I don't have to be at my desk per se. I don't need to be working 9 to 5, but it's still something I need to shake off every so often, and helping others realize that, like, they can do time differently. And as you mentioned, you've got your different constraints, like parenting, or for me, it's my partner. Like his hours kind of make me think, oh, I'll just kind of match him. But yeah, to get out of that conditioning of that is how we do work, is something that I think is taking more of a hold as we go along. Are you seeing the same?
Yeah, I think you make a really good point. And it is conditioning, isn't it? You know, we're told that we should work a particular way, or we see people on social media who are telling us this is the way to work and you'll be successful. But what we need to realize is, just because something works for somebody doesn't mean it's going to work for us. And we don't see everything that's going on either. I mean, particularly with social media, we need to be careful, because we don't see the whole picture. We see what people want to market to us. So I think, you know, a lot of people leave employment to be self-employed, and they say, you know, I want to work for myself. I want more freedom. I want more autonomy. And then they replicate what they were doing for a boss. And it's like, come on, if you're going to work for yourself, be the best boss you could have, right?
Yeah.
I say to people, I've got an amazing boss. She's really fair. She's quite firm at times, but she's really fair. She's really compassionate.
I love that. Be the best boss. Yeah. Oh, that's beautiful. Yeah, because otherwise we're just doing the same thing that we were before.
Yeah, and you're ultimately, if you're going to follow somebody else's rules and somebody else's design of a business, you're going to end up building a business that they want, not necessarily a business that you want. So really thinking about, what is it you want? How do you want to work? How do you need to work? And not everybody has the same capacity, the same resources, the same privilege, the same challenges. Like we're very similar in lots of ways as human beings, but we're also very different. So I think it's really important. The premise of all the work I do is get to know yourself, understand who you are, and go from there.
Yeah. And do you talk with people about experimenting, like even those tweaks, as you say, of like dropping 7 to 6 to 5 clients and just like experimenting what felt better or what kind of suits us?
Yeah.
Or how do we push against that 9 to 5? How do we get out of that conditioning?
Yeah. Well, I think one is being aware that it's there and asking yourself, is this what I want, or is this what someone else is telling me that I should have? And then absolutely experiment. You know, just because you set something up doesn't mean it's set in stone and you can never change it. My business has evolved multiple times over the years, sometimes in really small ways and sometimes in bigger ways. Like last year, I decided not to renew my psychology registration, which was a huge decision. It took me a long time to get that. I worked really hard as a single mum to do that. But I had developed new ways of working and new interests, and it was the right thing for me to do. Other things have been, instead of starting at 9:30, I'm going to do my first appointment at 10:30. It's like, you know, so they don't always have to be huge changes. And then I'll often say to people, my favorite thing about choice is you can always make another one. So if you choose to do something and then you can reflect on it and you don't like it or it doesn't suit you for some reason, try something else. Yeah. But I think people can get caught up, and I know I used to worry about this, and particularly us neurodivergent folk, I think we can have, and sometimes because it's been said to people, that we feel flaky. If we kind of say we're going to do something a particular way and then we experiment with it and we want to change it, and if we're going to change it, we can get a bit caught up in what will people think? Will they think I'm flaky? I said I was going to do it this way. And what I would say to that is it's not at all. It's about adapting something so it works well. You can do it long term and it's sustainable. And that's going to benefit everybody.
And thinking about neurodiversity, because from our earlier conversation, your diagnosis is quite a recent thing. Was it in the timeline? Was it prior or after the burnout?
So after. Yeah.
Yes.
Which no doubt contributed. I wasn't aware that I was neurodivergent, and I have no doubt that it contributed to my burnout. So I made lots of changes not knowing. I was 52, so like 2.5 years ago that I was identified as autistic with ADHD. And I had made a lot of adaptations up to that point. The great thing about having had the assessment and new information about myself was like, okay, well, I can now add this to what I know about myself and I can make whatever other changes I need to make. And I'd already, a lot of my work in my clinical psychology career, and still I use the framework, I was learning and teaching compassion-focused therapy. And it's a therapy that you very much embody as a clinician so that you can use it well with your clients. And the bonus in that is that you develop this really lovely compassionate self and take that on as a practice as you would with the things you're teaching. So I'd already developed this really compassionate part of me, which was great because I had a very toxic relationship with myself for a lot of my life. And then finding out I was neurodivergent it almost like leveled up my compassion as well. There was this increased understanding about who I was, and I was able to bring more compassion to some of the challenges that I have and some of the things that I've done in the past that perhaps didn't work out because I didn't realize I was neurodivergent trying to fit into a neurotypical world.
And being a psychologist and having achieved that like amazing level of study and everything, do you look back now and you're like, oh yes, there were signs, or like did it?
Yeah. yeah, I mean, when we have the information, we have new knowledge, we can look back, can't we, and go, oh, even, right back to childhood. But at the time, I had no idea. Well, that's not true. I didn't have no idea. I always knew I was different. I used to think I'd been dropped off on the wrong planet. Turns out I was. So I'd always known that I struggled with certain things, and I felt very different, and I couldn't understand quite why the world worked the way it did, because it didn't make sense. But I wasn't aware why. Yeah. So I masked a lot, and I created systems and adaptations for myself to be able to manage all the things. I kind of have a bit of a laugh now, because I was talking to a friend and saying, as an ADHD, we love a good deadline. Yeah. Like, give me a deadline and I'll get lots done. And basically single parenting and doing a degree and postgraduate studies, it's continual deadlines. So it probably helped me kind of just keep going with that.
Yeah. Well, it was so interesting to have that piece of the puzzle and like land in, and then now you're able to do time your way and kind of figure out what would you change about the world to kind of make it so everyone could do time their way.
I think being more understanding that there is diversity. We don't all operate the same, and having things set up in a way that suit a particular population of people only isn't very helpful. And if we're more inclusive, if we start to do things that would suit neurodivergent people, everyone's going to benefit anyway.
Yes. Yeah. And our previous kind of side conversation was about the people who will not benefit, or who are currently benefiting. And how can we push against that so that we can all start thriving, which makes me want to lead into that area around doing time as someone who bleeds, or post menstrual cycles, because you mentioned you're going into the HRT world as well. How has that kind of figured in with your neurodiversity, those two sides to it, like the feminine way of living as well as neurodiverse living?
Yeah, look, I think it all needs to be taken into account, whatever it is that we're dealing with as a human being. I think we need to think about intersectionality as well. We can't just say we're dealing with women, or we're dealing with people who bleed, or we're dealing with people who are neurodivergent, or we're dealing with people who experience racism and oppression. We need to understand that some people experience all of those things. And we need to take that into account. We need to be more accepting of people. We need to listen to people more. If we want to get the best out of people, I mean, we know, it's no secret, we live in a patriarchal capitalist society, right? And that's going to take a lot to change that. And some people are very focused on productivity and profit and what we can output for them. So even in that, like, I don't believe that is where we should be kind of focusing all the time. But even for that, if we are looking at productivity and output, if we listen to people and we actually really pay attention to what they need, and we treat them like the human beings they are, and we incorporate rest, and we think about well-being, and we think about the different ways people's brains work and how they operate best, then guess what? We're going to get better output from people anyway. Yeah. So that's kind of not my message, is we should just be finding ways for people to be more productive. But for those people who are focused on that, there's the tip, is actually treat people like the human beings they are, and you will get more from them anyway. We know from research that when people are happier in their work, when they feel like they've got a sense of autonomy, or they feel like they can work in a way that suits them, then they get more done, So I think there's lots of things that could change, and wouldn't it be lovely, actually, if the world was far more inclusive?
Yeah. No, you're spot on. It's just it's a no-brainer that if we allowed, or if there was that flexibility of just seeing things outside of that 9 to 5 and looking, not so much focusing on what are you producing, but looking at how we can slow down and do things on a slower scale. Than at the moment it feels like everything's very fast.
And I think a lot of the time, because there is this messaging of you need to be busy, you need to be producing, you need to be outputting, people get busy for busy's sake. They'll have themselves looking busy, engage in lots and lots of tasks, but that doesn't necessarily mean that that's productive or that's helpful to the outcome that you want. If we can slow down and be more intentional and actually focus our time and energy on the types of tasks that are meaningful and helpful for what we want to be doing, then that's going to be better.
Yeah. And thinking about what it is that you're wanting to achieve in, say, the next year, coming into a new financial year, how do you kind of handle that, like, excitement of wanting to do things and achieve, but also maintain that slowing down or the pace that is right for you? Does that make sense, that question?
Absolutely. And that can be tricky. Like, I have an active mind. I have lots of ideas all of the time. I have notes and notes in my phone on bits of paper about ideas that I have. And I like diversity in what I'm doing as well. So I have my business coaching, I do speaking, I do custom training. I'm currently writing a book. I run a building company with my husband. And people will say, oh my gosh, you do so much. And I was like, well, I actually don't. I just do lots of different things, but I don't do too much of it or too much of any of it. But what I tend to do is I'll get lots of ideas. I'll have lots of things I'm excited about, and I write them down. And the key for me is staying connected to myself and actually checking in and saying, well, if you take on all these things now, what's that going to mean for your future self? And that's a really quick way for me to come back and go, okay, two of those things have got to be put on the back burner. They need to be done at another time. I'm currently writing a book. I have a group program that I was going to run earlier this year, and I decided, or the book decided, that it was ready to come. And I ended up not going ahead with my group program as much as I wanted to, because I knew if I was trying to do both of those, I wouldn't be able to give my best to each of them. And when I do something, I like to do it well. So that's something that I'll do later. But it's not always easy. I think sometimes we do want to do all the things. And I speak with a lot of people who say yes quickly and overcommit. And then, because they've said yes, feel like there's no way that they can back out or say no. I think that's really common. So for me, I try not to say yes quickly. And if I do say yes to too many things, and I really know that it's going to be detrimental to my well-being, then I will look through and see what it is that I'm actually going to change my mind on, and remind myself it's actually okay to change my mind.
That's really lovely. Good, really good. I like what you said about the book was ready to come through, so you put the group program on pause, because we don't have to do everything at once, and it's okay to pace things out, and change our mind, especially when new information comes forward, or new intuition. Fantastic. So writing the book at the moment. And how much of your week or do you dedicate to that, or do you have a set routine, or how do you go about it?
Sorry, I don't know if you can hear that. We've just got a test alarm that's possibly going to go off, but we'll see.
Can't hear anything, but
okay, well, that's good.
if you need to go.
No, I think it's just a test.
Oh, okay.
How much of my week? So again, I have this where I would love to be somebody who always has structure. Like the autistic part of me would always love to have everything like structured, and this is when I'm going to do it, and this is for how long. And then I think, you know, the kind of ADHD presentation comes along and is like, you know, that doesn't sound fun. How about we do it when we feel like doing it? So I try and find a bit of a balance of both. And again, deadlines work really well for me. So I'm currently working to a deadline to get I've written the first manuscript, and I'm just doing my first kind of read through and edits before sending it to somebody who's going to help me publish it. So I've got a deadline for that. And I try and do not too many hours at a time. But again, I can start doing that and I can get into hyperfocus. So what I'm aware of with that is that can get quite strong for me, and I could lose all track of time. So if I do sit down to do the work on my book or any particular project that I'm working on, I tend to set alarms in my phone to make sure that I'm stopping like at meal times. Otherwise I could go through and I just wouldn't eat, and I'd just keep going, and that's just not ideal for me or my future self. So I have things in place. So if I start the process and then I get really kind of consumed by it, there's little safeguards that are, you know, past Haley is thinking of future Haley and taking care of her.
Yeah. Oh, beautiful. Yeah, I talk a lot about the future self and making it a character that you can look out for and care for. And yeah, that's such a useful tool for you as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I love your description there of the autistic side and the ADHD and how they've got that conflict, because that is something a lot of my clients experience as well. So it's good to hear that someone's you're doing the book, doing all the things, and making those two sides work together.
Yeah, and it can have its challenges, but I think as well, I like to kind of look and think, okay, so what are the different strengths that come with that? And how can I kind of, I guess, see myself as a team, and how can I work together with all of the strengths that I've got, whilst also kind of being compassionate about the challenges that I've got as well.
Yeah, beautiful. Really nice. Oh, well, this has been so delightful. Is there anything you would like to leave us with?
Look, I think, and I say this most of the time when I'm speaking, is I honestly believe it's about getting to know yourself, like really get to understand yourself and know that you can make decisions that work for you. We don't have to do it in a particular prescribed way. And take care and remember to rest, even though that can be hard for lots of people. You know, even starting something really small by just perhaps closing your eyes down for a couple of minutes and taking a few breaths can be something you can do in between tasks, if actually stopping and taking time to rest feels like too much.
Yeah. Oh, that's really beautiful. Yeah. Very good. Thank you so much, Dr. Haley.
Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.